Algebra 2, we're going to be doing lesson 9-5, adding and subtracting rational expressions. Now, one thing you have to realize and you have to remember, when you are adding and subtracting fractions, what do you have to have? You have to have a common denominator. Okay, that is key. We have to have a least common denominator. So on the first few problems on your assignment, they're going to give you two equations, two separate polynomials, and they're going to ask you to find the least common multiple. Okay, so again, factor, that is key. So I'm looking at this first polynomial. I know I can factor a 2 out, so I'm going to pull a 2 out. So then I've got x squared minus 4x plus 4. I can factor it further. Factors of 4 that add or subtract to give me 4, 2 and 2. 2 minus plus means minus. So I've got 2 parentheses x minus 2 times x minus 2. This one here, I can factor out a 15. So I'm going to pull a 15 out. So then I've got x squared minus 4. I can factor that further to x plus 2, x minus 2. So now, finding my least common multiple. So I'm going to look at my 2 and my 15 first. I'm going to look at those two front numbers. Okay, I'm looking at my 2 and my 15. What is the least common multiple between 2 and 15? 30, because they both go into 30. That's the smallest number they both go into. So for my least common multiple, grab a different color pin here. So for my least common multiple, I would have 30. And then what else do each of them have? This one has 2x minus 2's. This one has 1x minus 2. So I go with my largest number of x minus 2's. Because there's 2 here, 1 there. My largest number is the 2. So I've got the least common multiple between those two. I got these two considered as my least common multiple. What else does it have? The x plus 2. And that right there would be my least common multiple. So you're seeing what they both go into or what they both have, especially those two factored parts. So again, break it down again. I'm going to go over it again step by step here. So what I did is I took each one of these and I factored them. So then I'd have 2x squared minus 4x plus 4. And then break that down further, x minus 2, x minus 2. Over here, I took the 15 out. Break that down further to x plus 2, x minus 2. I look at these two front numbers. What do they both go into? 30. So that's how I got that as my least common multiple. This one has 2x minus 2's. This one only has 1. So I take this. I got 2 here, 1 there. I take my largest number of x minus 2's. So I have 2 of them. There's my largest number of them. Then what else? If I have these taken care of, this taken care of, that taken care of, what's left over? Another x plus 2. So that's how you find your least common multiple. So now when I'm adding these fractions, I'm going to do the same thing as I did down here. Okay, so I look at my denominators. And we're going to factor them. So I'm going to pull a 3 out. So I've got x squared plus 7x plus 10. Then I'm going to break it down further. Okay, so then I'm going to have 1 over 3 parentheses x plus 5, x plus 2 for that one. Plus, this one here, I can just only take out that 3. So I've got a 3 parentheses x minus 5. So now, stating my LCD. I know they both have a 3, so I don't have to find the greatest common factor or least common multiple between those two because they both include 3. This one has an x plus 5 and an x plus 2. Let's make that better there. An x plus 2. What does that one have? An x minus 5. So this whole thing is my least common multiple. 3, x plus 5, x plus 2, x minus 5. So over on this one, grab a different color here. Over on this one over here, what am I missing? To make this denominator look like that, what am I missing? The x minus 5. So I'm going to multiply by x minus 5 over x minus 5. Over here, what am I missing? The x plus 5 and the x plus 2. Simplify this. So all of this is going to be sitting over my LCD. The 3, x plus 5, x plus 2, x minus 5. Take that times 1. So I've got my x minus 5 on top for that one. This one over here, I've got my plus 4x. And isn't this right here, just that factored? So I've got my x squared plus 7x plus 10 if I were to refoil that out, equals, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute through and try to combine at the same time. Distribute and combine at the same time. So I've got a 4x cubed. So I'm going to have my 4x cubed. 28x squared. A 40x and an x. It's 41x. And then a negative 5. All over the LCD, which I am not going to foil back through. Okay, not going to foil that back through. I'm going to leave it just like that. There's adding and subtracting rational numbers. So let's do a few more examples. Okay, so we got this one back here. Okay, this one back here. Again, we're going to factor each one of those denominators. So this one here, I'm going to have my 2x on top, and I'm going to factor that. X minus 3, x plus 1. Minus 3, what can I pull out of there? Your 4, x plus 1. So now, let's state our LCD. I look at my front numbers. The only one I have is 4, so that has to be included. This one has an x minus 3 and an x plus 1. And that one has an x plus 1. Notice these x plus 1s, one is not bigger than the other. There's no squared there. There's no cubed there. So one is not bigger, so all I need is 1. So now we're trying to make our denominators look exactly like that least common denominator. I'm trying to make our denominators look exactly like that least common denominator. So on this very first one over here, what am I missing? I'm just missing the 4 because I have the x minus 3 and the x plus 1. So I got to multiply this one by 4 over 4. This one over here, what am I missing? I've got the 4 and I've got the x plus 1. What's missing? The x minus 3. Now that my denominators look exactly the same, notice they look the exact same as my LCD and they are the same to each other. I'm going to multiply atop. So I've got 8x. I'm going to take my negative 3 all the way through. Taking my negative 3 all the way through. Negative 3 all the way through. So I've got a negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 3 plus 9 all over my LCD. And then I'm going to simplify that numerator. So I got 5x plus 9 all over. I'm not going to simplify my denominator. And that's all let's do it. Key, just get those denominators simplified down. That's your key. That's your key. Okay, let's do another one. So this one here, I'm going to go ahead and factor it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and factor this. So we've got an x, 3, 2, minus plus, and over here, x plus 2, x plus 2. So now we got an x plus 2 squared. So my LCD, there's no front number. Okay, so I know I've got an x minus 3. What else? An x plus 2 squared, because I've got two of them. Now, am I going to, count it wrong if you decided to not write it as squared as you write both of those down? No, absolutely not. If you want to write this as an x plus 2 times an x plus 2, do that. Okay, I'm not going to count it wrong. It's not going to be wrong. So this one over here, I have 3 terms down there, right? 1, 2, 3. What am I missing over here? Another x plus 2. So I'm going to multiply this one by x plus 2 over x plus 2. Over here, what am I missing? I've got my 2x plus 2's. What else do I need? The x minus 3. So let's distribute. So we've got 5x squared plus 10x plus 4x minus 12 all over our LCD. X minus 3, x plus 2, and I'm going to write it as x plus 2 squared. Simplify it. So I've got 5x squared plus 6x minus 12 all over x minus 3, x plus 2 squared. So as long as you get those denominators the same, state that LCD. I want to see that. I want to see your LCD. So state that LCD. Make sure your denominators look like that LCD, and you should have no problem with it. The rest from there is just basic algebra, distributive property, addition and subtraction property of equalities. Okay, last thing, complex fractions. Definitely something you're going to see on ACTs, college algebra, all that good stuff. So I want to simplify this complex fraction. Okay, you got a fraction over a fraction. What is my LCD of just these two fractions? An x and a y. That's what my LCD is. An x and a y, right? Denominator, denominator, xy. To clear these fractions, multiply every single thing by the LCD that you stated. So here, I can cancel my x out. So I'm left with a y. Just multiply that, 3xy, over, here I can cancel my y out, 5x, multiply that, 4xy. Leave it. You're done. That complex fraction is now simplified. And they don't get very difficult. Find your LCD of those two fractions, state it, then multiply it by every single term. Okay, multiply it by every single term, and it doesn't get that bad. So there it is. If you have questions, let me know. This one was number 15, by the way. I tried to go in order of what your homework is going to look like with the examples. So there it is. If you have questions, you know how to reach me. All right, have a good one.